Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga. What's up, everybody? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the long-awaited sequel to Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Volume 2, I should say, which was the long-awaited sequel to the original Guardians of the Galaxy. What can I tell you? I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Like, they are incredible, in my opinion, and easily one of the best franchises within the MCU, and some of the best characters in the MCU. Now, I have been on record saying that the MCU hasn't really been, shall we say, up to snuff, or rather, on the same level that it has been for the past 10 plus years, pretty much since 2021-ish. They sort of been dwindling, partially not through fault of their own, but I mean, mostly through fault of their own. I loved Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Sorry, almost got it wrong. And Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. I loved it. Most people did not, and that was really the only MCU movie that I've watched in a while that I actually really, really loved. So here's hoping that the Guardians won't let me down. Same thing that Ant-Man didn't. Whatever. Yeah. So I'm gonna go and check up on my old friends, the keepers of the Milky Way. Yeah, there really is no way to make a mock name for it. Anyways, I'll tell you what I think once I'll come out of the movie, and hopefully it's good. So, see you then. I am Groot. Hey, what's the matter with you? So, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the third movie in the Guardians of the Galaxy series. I'm hesitant to say the last, even though I think I remember something about James Gunn maybe saying that was gonna be his last. And, well, we'll get to that, I suppose. But all the same, all things considered, what do I think about this movie? Well, I'll say this. It is my least favorite of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but that's not because the movie is bad, or at least not because I thought it was bad. It's simply because the other two were just so unbelievably, unimaginably, incredibly amazing that this one falls a little bit short to those two. I think my favorite of the three is the first one. That one was just so special and came out of complete nowheresville that I hoped it would have been good. I had no idea. I could not prepare myself to just how great the first one would have been. Second one obviously had a lot to look up to, and it too was unbelievably great. But then again, we already had the first one to compare it to, so it is what it is. Coming out of that movie, I honestly thought it was better than the first one when I walked out of the movie. Then slept on it, and I kid you not, literally the first thing that I thought of when I woke up the next morning was it wasn't as good as the first one, but it was still good. This one, as I already alluded to, is not as good as the second one, but still really, really good. I mean, it still is the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, in my opinion, new phone, kind of getting used to the new position of the camera. Anyway, so, I think the Guardians of the Galaxy plus James Gunn is a formula that cannot miss. I mean, I enjoyed the Guardians' inclusion in the two Avengers movies and a little bit of Thor: Love and Thunder, but I don't know. James Gunn just has a handle on these characters that no other director in Hollywood could ever have. Hence, when they fired James Gunn, all of them, and I mean all of them, pretty much got together and said, we do not do this movie without James Gunn. Even Taika Waititi, who has done a great job with the Thor movies, in my opinion, and just one of the hottest directors in Hollywood, when he was offered to replace James Gunn, they straight up said, no, that's his movie. I'm not going to touch his work. Let the man direct his movie. And eventually that's what they did. They hired him back, and it worked out great in my opinion. This movie was really, really good. Again, the other two were great. This one is just good. Now, here's some of the positives that I can say about this movie. The Guardians are still true to who they are. Like I said, James Gunn just knows these characters so well, and every single one of the characters had a moment to shine. Both the Guardians that we're familiar with from the previous two movies, and certain characters that were introduced in other movies, in particular this one. So, can't really say anything too bad about that. Like I said, the balance between all the Guardian characters, and I mean, just looking at the poster behind me, there are kind of a lot of characters right now. I mean, there's like what was it, 5 in the original lineup of the team. Now there's a little bit more, and the balancing act was done great, in my opinion. The action might be a little too early to say, but I think there's better action in this movie than the first two. I don't know, but that scene with Yondu and the arrow killing everybody in the second one, that one's tough to beat. But there is a scene in this movie which kind of follows a similar trope that other Marvel projects are doing these days, not giving anything away, but it was amazing. And it kind of reminded me of another really great movie that came out a couple of years ago, where I basically had the exact same response to that scene. Again, not giving anything away. The villain, though, I think is probably the biggest weak point in this movie, but then again, the other Guardians movies weren't really particularly known for great villains, but I mean, I think Ego was really good as a villain. Ronan the Accuser was kind of generic, and this one I think is the worst of the bunch. Like, again, without giving anything away, first of all, how should I say this without spoiling too much? Certain plot points that were introduced in the second one very quickly got course corrected. That's one thing I can say. But the villain, well, I think the actor did a good job with the material he was given, but for the most part, he just seemed like a tantruming child. And that's really not what you want from a villain of that caliber. Really hope I didn't spoil anything too much, but yeah, the humor is still very, very good. And once again, they do this thing where every single character gets a joke, but I think it's better than the first one in the sense that they don't introduce a joke and then hammer the point home 9-10 times until you get the joke. There's a little bit of repeating the same joke in the same scene, but definitely nowhere near as much as it was in the second one. But I still think that the first one got the balancing act right with the humor. And yeah, the characters I think got kind of improved as a result. I mean, there's still humor in this, but they're not just doing it for the joke, for the sake of the joke. There's actually purpose to what they're doing. Another bit of negative I could say is some of the characters. I mentioned the villain feels like a tantruming child. Some of the characters, the Guardians themselves, sort of spend a big portion of the movie yelling at each other, which, you know, got old really, really fast. But being the Guardians, they grew out of it. They remembered that they're friends and family, and they made up. So overall, I'd give this movie a thumbs up, but still not as great as the first two. But reminder, the first two are some of the best MCU movies in my opinion. There are 2 post-credit scenes, I will say, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I don't think that they're both must watch, if you catch my meaning. They're not really required viewing, as like to say some of the other Guardians of the Galaxy post-credit scenes were. Like, I mean, the post-credit scenes from Spider-Man Far From Home, or Avengers Infinity War, those were must-watch scenes. These two are not so much. And going back to the earlier point that I said earlier, this appears to be the last of the Guardians movies, at least for now. But if it is, I'm not saying it is, but if it is, I think there's great closure to all the characters in this movie, and some of the characters are likely to come back. To what capacity, I don't know just yet. I'm just going off of the movie I've just seen, without spoiling anything away. But yeah, if this is to be the last Guardians movie, it's a really good way to end things off for each of the characters. And maybe some of the characters will appear in other movies, but I don't want to say too much because I don't really know myself at the moment. So I think that'll do it for my review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Let me know what you thought about this movie if you get a chance to see it. And yeah, I definitely say this is one of those Marvel movies that that is required viewing. Especially if you love the Guardians of the Galaxy characters in the MCU, that is. But to me, it's another win for the MCU, which I think it's something that they sorely needed after the last couple of years, and I think the future is bright for the MCU. They had a bit of a snag with some of the movies, and one final thing I want to end up on is this movie. I think it's the most edgy out of all the Guardians movies, and might be the edgiest MCU movie. Very careful on the wording there. I think it might be the edgiest MCU movie that they've done so far, for reasons that you'll see if once you see it. But I'm not sure I like the new edgy direction for the MCU. But I mean, it's the Guardians of the Galaxy, so that type of edginess is to be expected. Is all I'm saying. So go ahead. Well, stop listening to me ramble on and go watch the movie because it's really good and I had a really good time with it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next movie, which might actually be this one. Hold on, not this. Yeah, the little the mermaid who's little. Can't remember her name, but yeah. So that's the next one on the docket, I believe, unless there's something else I'm forgetting. So thank you for watching, and I am Groot. Bye. Hi there. Thank you for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. I'll see you next time.